contrast an Islamic attitude towards women with a Western attitude towards women. So do we say that that's a contrast between the Islamic attitude towards women and the Judeo-Christian attitude towards women? Is it reasonable to make that a religious issue? Or what do you think about that? I mean, is it?
Yeah, it is a religious issue. It's a cultural issue. It's also an issue of not only generating and being the motto behind modernity and constantly modernizing, which is what Western societies are constantly doing. And then obviously the religious component for me, when I analyze the leadership of Islam, is the disappointment with modernity and the rejection of that. And again, that is why
what are they rejecting, do you think, that we've accepted? What are the differences that enables the emergence of the idea that women could be equal, or that they are equal, and that they should be, that equality should be fostered and treasured and developed? What's the difference? I'm not expecting you necessarily to know the answer to that, but it is the issue.
Yeah. Well, the issue is when you study the narrative that the radical Muslims preach and propagate, there is this deep disappointment that Islam is no longer the dominant force of the globe. And the answer that they give to that question is because they strayed away from the pure doctrine and the behavior of the Prophet, especially when he was in Medina and he had become so powerful. He had conquered not only Arabia, but then went beyond, and then his disciples went to almost every continent. And they were dominant. Then what went wrong? And I think people like Bertrand Russell and others have tried to give the answer that, and they came late to the game of modernity and then had these debates about, well, if we want to move forward and catch up with the West, whom they looked down on, then we have to become like them. That was the attempt that Kemal Atatürk made in Turkey. But then another force, a retrograde force, these are our modern Islamists, said, no, that is actually the wrong answer. We have to make them submit to us. And when I say they reject modernity, they like the gadgets and the nuclear weapons and that sort of modern stuff that makes them feel dominant or strong. But when it comes to adopting attitudes such as liberating women, they recoil from that. Absolutely, they recoil from that because they think that's what's going to take them apart. That's looking like them. Or running your societies according to that time machine that the West does. They think that that's all empty, looking at the clock all the time. So there are aspects about the West that they admire and want to incorporate, but the end goal is that it is not their goal to adopt some of these Western values. But a lot of people are voting with their feet. There are people who are poor, dispossessed, subjected to all sorts of violence, who want to come to the West and start all over again. And those are the people we're talking about. And I think to give those people a chance to actually become a part of modernity and modern society is to assimilate them. And the way to do it is just by admitting that some of the voting with the feet says it all.
Well,
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Bismillah, wa salatu wa salam Rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger. As to what follows, family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back. Welcome back to the Daniel Haqiqatjou Roast Week. It is the official Daniel Haqiqatjou Roast Week. We are roasting the alt-right leader in the Muslim community this week. We are giving him that holy, righteous, work. We're giving him that work. We are giving him that work. All are welcome. The haters are welcome. The naysayers are welcome. Everybody's welcome. The things that we have been talking about on this channel, directly related to Black people and Black issues. This is the first time I've seen a lot of stuff, but this is the first time in my entire life I've ever seen so-called Salafis openly back somebody who is not just not Salafi and a hostile to Salafi, teachings. but is openly calling the Muslims to the alt-right. First time. So welcome. We appreciate you all, and welcome to the Daniel Haqiqatjou's slow white meat roast. The slow white meat roast. Y'all hearing me? Family, in 1790, you had between 800,000 to 1.2 million Black people in the US. And at that time, compared to white people, with regards to land, resources, capital, they owned collectively approximately 0.163% of the nation's wealth. Okay? By the time 1890 comes around, at the end of the Civil War, Black people now owned approximately 1.89% of the land, the capital, the resources. This is how much they own. Okay? In the West, what determines your wealth and your opportunities is what you own and control through capitalism. It's not social integration. It's not civil rights. Those practices are destabilizing processes. It's what you own and control that establishes your opportunities within the Black community. So Black folk spent a lot of time, shed a lot of blood, had a lot of, harm inflicted on them for fighting for civil rights, fighting for integration, all these social programs that up until this very day have not benefited Black people, but have benefited everybody around Black people. And these social programs have been used by every other people group so that they can benefit. Meanwhile, Black people are fighting for this to benefit other people. And if you look at, for example, the Chinese, in every Chinatown, everywhere in the world, whether it's in Canada or whether it's in America, any Western country, you name it, okay? They all operate separate within a Western construct. And they have never, ever complained about civil rights or social integration. They have their own communities, and they don't operate within the left-right paradigm. They don't feel like they're suffering. And do you know why? Because they own and control what goes on in their communities. Y'all hearing me? They own the land, they own the businesses, they own the schools, they own their clinics, their traditional Chinese medicine, as well as the Chinese medical centers, as well as their homes. Everything that happens in their community, they own. And they aren't bothering anybody, and they're thriving. Now let us look at y'all Black folk, okay? Do you think that you can go to any Chinatown and open up Blackie Chan's fried shrimp, rice, and egg foo young? You think you can do that? Hell no, you can't do it. They will tell you faster than you can finish your thought to go back to your own people where you live and open up your own shop over there. Go to any Chinese restaurant in any Chinatown on earth, and you tell me if you find Leroy in the kitchen, Shaniqua hosting, and Letitia as a waitress. But you Black people, you don't own the businesses in your community. You don't even own the homes in your community. Okay? Everybody, all the immigrants come to the West. And do you know where they find the American dream? By setting up businesses in the Black community, providing us, Black people, with our necessities, which we should be able to provide for ourselves. Every Muslim immigrant group has practiced this in the Black community. You have Arabs who will come and open up convenience stores selling Black people pork, loose cigarettes, 40-ounce malt liquor. They will leave their Qurans behind the counters, go to Jummah, and when they're asked about it, they will say they must sell Black people these things in order to stay in business. You have Pakistanis who will use affirmative action laws, the same laws that Black people fought for, mind you. The affirmative action was specifically designed for Black people. And then it became about minorities. Who's a minority? Anybody who's not a white man is a minority, including a white woman. And the largest benefactor of affirmative action happens to be white women. Y'all hearing me? So they will benefit off of the affirmative action laws, which you fought for, you shed blood for, and use those same laws to lock Black people out of their tech firms and whatnot. They will show up in your community and set up groceries, restaurants, variety stores, you name it, clothing stores, everything and anything and everything. Okay? They will take their money, they will go into your community, set up shop, take the money out to where they live, okay, and enrich themselves off of your money. All the weave that Lakeisha and them and Shanae and them buying, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of Brazilian women hair, Indian women hair, Chinese women hair, weaving it into their head, thousands of dollars. And who's getting rich off of this? But the question is, are they wrong? Are they wrong for doing that? Are they wrong? They ain't wrong for doing that. You can't blame them. Okay? It's the same thing with the masajid and the Islamic centers. How many ethnic groups came to the Black community under so-called brotherhood, and when they received their monetary achievements in the Black community, they took that money out of the Black community and their infrastructure out and set up their own community somewhere other place and built elaborate masajid for themselves. You'll find all over Facebook, build the biggest mosque in New York. Eddie building a big center somewhere. Can you imagine? Are they wrong though? That's the question. Are they wrong? The AIM conference is no different. This is just another money grab from religious Black people to build someone else's community. And y'all are going for it again. The fact that they've invited Daniel Haqiqatjou to speak in Plainsville, New Jersey, which has a large Black population, 39%. 39%. Okay? That's proof enough. We've already went into great detail about his outrageous anti-Black rhetoric. And we ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. Okay? It's funny because we put out his anti-Black rhetoric all the way last year. Like all the way last year, we put that out. Okay? And we didn't really make a big deal out of it because we know how y'all are, all about your YouTubian, die elites. We know how y'all get. We ain't got no time to be arguing with you. Y'all hearing me? We're not debating. We're not arguing. We're putting out the evidence. And then the way that you react will tell us whether you were an ally or not. That's what we do here. You get it? The way that you react to the evidence tells us whether or not you are a brother or you're not a brother. It's as simple as that. The booty shaking and the shucking and jiving and tap dancing, all kind of stuff, we don't do that here. When we look like begging for you to be brothers and stuff, you must be out of your mind. Every supporter of Daniel Haqiqatjou that is asking for proof of his racism after they've watched that video, all of them, so far, every last one of them, after they watched that video, these are some house Negroes, that one, after they seen that one, which is short, sweet, to the point, all of them, without exception, said, yeah, that's pretty racist. All of them. Y'all hearing me? Nobody came to defend him after watching that. So we can see because proof is proof, evidence is evidence. What you want me to do? And here he is, Daniel Haqiqatjou, being invited to speak in a community with a large Black and Hispanic population. But again, this is nothing new. Muslim organizations have been exploiting Black Muslims for years, donkey years. For as far as I can remember. I was young when I became Muslim. I didn't see it as exploitation back then. But in hindsight, because hindsight only 2020, you can't really teach experience. Then you know what the game is. Like, oh yeah. That's what they was doing. But the difference this time is that this is the first time I personally have ever seen a methodical attempt like this to introduce Muslims to the alt-right under the guise of Salafiyah. I've never seen anything like that before. That right there is new. That's new. When he has somebody who is, not Salafi at all. As a matter of fact, he's, you know what? Let me show y'all something, right? Because, again, we have to do this, right? We have to do it. Because y'all won't believe me if I just say it. But the receipts are so many. And then, so many about Daniel Haqiqatjou. You don't even have to go that far. I don't understand it. Because I don't even watch his stuff. Okay? And I got all these receipts. By not even trying that hard. So what are the people that have been watching him for years and they can't see it? That says a hell of a lot more about y'all than it does me. Okay? But anyways, let me show y'all something. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, y'all. Let me show y'all something. You think it's jokes. You ready to see this? Y'all ain't ready. Y'all are not ready. Who to blame for the occupation of Al-Aqsa? Saudi and their crown brick. You can't make this crap up. You cannot. Let me tell y'all something, okay? If Daniel Haqiqatjou wasn't talking about LGBTs and you know, what you would call feminists and stuff like that, Kareem Abu Zaybal would be refuting him day and night, especially for stuff like this. But because he's looking out for his own community, he ain't looking out for you black folks. He ready to sign off on racism. Ain't the first, ain't the second, ain't the first time, it ain't the third time, ain't even the 100th time. Right? In order to help his people. So he can brush this under the rug. Right? Look what Faris al-Hamidi says, you know. The Prophet said, do not insult your rulers. Saudi and a new crown prick are behind the blame of Al-Aqsa. And this is funny because his zaddy is actually directly behind this new relationship between the Gulf countries and Israel. His zaddy, which he has not talked about, by the way. His zaddy, Donald Trump, made this crazy deal with the Arab countries. Y'all are going to get along with Israel, and we're going to flood their countries with all the weapons you want for your wars. He didn't look to the colonizer for the occupation of Al-Aqsa, which started in the end of World War II, by the way. He didn't look at that. Some outrageous revisionist history here. But why? Why look at Saudi specifically? Why? Because of his Qadiri tendencies. And he's speaking at a Salafi conference. You can't make this crap up. You cannot. And there's so much. There's way more than this. We ain't got no time for that because we talk about his alt-right. But I got to bring this up for you. Right? Way more than that. But let me just, you know what? Let me just bring something else up. Remember Wajdi, y'all? Remember Wajdi? Me and Wajdi, okay? I actually told him, and it's ironic because do you know who told me about Daniel Haqiqatjou's Khariji tendencies? Sajid Liberal. Way, like almost 2 years ago. When I didn't even know who he was. I know I was introduced to Daniel Haqiqatjou by Sajid Liberal. And he told me, yeah, he has some Khariji stuff, but we're talking to him. We're trying to, I'm like, okay, whatever. Try to talk to the brother, inshallah, bring him around. Okay? I don't know who he was. You know who told me that Daniel Haqiqatjou was alt-right and has anti-black sentiment? My own sister. I didn't know. Like most of y'all, I didn't know. I did not know. Because I don't go following this stuff, right? It was introduced to me. And I didn't say anything for like months, at least minimum a half year. Minimum a half year. I didn't say anything. Y'all hearing me? And it wasn't until Sajid and Wajdi tried to sabotage this channel that I said, okay, let's put it out then. Let's put it all out since we're doing this, right? Sign it. I didn't do nothing to Sajid. He tried to sabotage my channel and stuff. Right? So, but anyway, the point is that Wajdi, I told Wajdi personally on the phone, look here, Wajdi. Right? I said, Wajdi, did you know that Daniel Haqiqatjou, his Akida teacher is like this? Did you know that Daniel Haqiqatjou said this? He's like, this and that, and then this and this and that. He said, well, I don't know. Like, that's what he's telling me, you know. Did you know that Daniel Haqiqatjou's Akida teacher, you know, actually maturity, whatever. I told him this like with no barrier. I told him all this. He's like, well, I don't know it. And in my head, I'm like,
stop the cap.
I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. But now, out of all the Salafis, right? Looky here. Looky here. Because remember, was he used to defend the alt-right leader in the Muslim community? He used to defend them. Watch this, y'all. This came out, look at the date here, August 15th, 2022. Look at what he wrote. This is very unwarranted subjective statement. Subhanallah, subhanallah. How can he even assess such matters? He's far better in almost every aspect. Wow, the audacity, bro. Daniel, check it out now. Daniel is pure tech theory. And I attest to that based on personal chats between us. Scales are flipped instantly. Shout out to Wajdi. At least Wajdi, finally a Salafi says it. Finally. That's not me, by the way. Salafi was not me. But we've been saying this from who knows how long. Who knows how long we've been saying it? But at least Wajdi, he came out, and I have to give I rate Wajdi for that. I give him props because he's basically going against the grain, you know, of his own mentors. You know what I mean? So I rate him for that. You know? Salaat Wajdi, good job, bro. Y'all hearing me? But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Okay? The Pied Piper of the alt-right in the Muslim community. The Pied Piper. Let me tell you something, because y'all might not know who the Pied Piper is, okay? Right? The Pied Piper, right, is a story, a kid's story in the West here, is about this town that has a rat problem. And the rats are infesting the homes, the businesses, the whatever. So then this Pied Piper comes into town. He says, you know what? I can handle your rat problem for you. Right? All you got to do is pay me, and I'll play my flute, and I will lead all the rats out of your town. So the people gather around and say, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. We're going to pay you once your job is done. So the Pied Piper, he comes in with his flute, plays his song. The rats are like, ooh, nice music. And he leads them all the way out the town. Y'all hearing me? He leads them all the way out the town. and he goes back to get paid. The people don't pay him. So he takes his flute, he plays his flute, and brings the rats right back to the town. Daniel Haqiqatjou is exactly the same thing. He comes into town. You Muslims are like, Daniel, can you come to this conference and teach the people about LGBTs and feminism and bring your fancy arguments and stuff? I could do that. So he leads all the liberal rats out of town with his fancy arguments. But this time the people that pay him. And those liberal rats, with his pipe, he turns them to conservative rats and brings them right back in. And who do these conservative rats argue with? Argue with the Feachaz. They argue with the black grassroots. They argue with, the Muslims who are trying to follow the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf. They argue with people who with integrity, who are saying that Islam is actually the solution, not these weird arguments from the alt-right or the liberal left. Any argument you have against these agendas found in the Quran and the Sunnah, keep bringing the liberal rats back. He's the Pied Piper of the alt-right. So now we're going to look at this article here. Daniel wrote, and believe me, there's plenty of evidence of his. You don't have to look hard. Wallah, you don't have to look hard. There's plenty of evidence of Daniel Haqiqatjou's alt-right leanings. Blatant alt-right leanings. Not hidden, blatant. Y'all hearing me? Let's look at this article here. Daniel Haqiqatjou, okay? This is written in November 2018. Authentic Islam is facing extinction in the United States. Okay? So Roshan Muhammad Saleh asked Daniel, do you believe that Orthodox Islam is under threat in America? Why? Daniel Haqiqatjou, yes. Islam is definitely under attack from different quarters. There are non-Muslim Islamophones who tend to be conservatives, but there are also some liberals such as Bill Maher and Sam Harris, for example. These are people who are supposed to be on the political left, but they regularly target Islam and Muslims. But unfortunately, there are a lot of Muslims who fall into the second camp, the liberals, and they have gained a lot of popularity. They say that defending Muslims against more obvious overt attacks by the conservatives, but a lot of the political content of the left is also anti-Islam. And the ignorance or naivete about this reality is very dangerous. I think you should be more concerned about the enemy that you don't see than the one that is more obvious. I'm so happy you said that. Anyways, yeah, we should be more concerned with the enemy that we don't see, Daniel Haqiqatjou. You read about that one. I agree with you there. Okay. For instance, okay, there's an activist called Linda Sarsour who is very popular amongst the average Muslims as well as amongst the National Muslim Institution. At least several times a month, she is featured by by these institutions for fundraising events or a conference or a convention. And she also has direct endorsements from a number of scholars, and this is despite the fact she has gone on record with many statements that are fundamentally anti-Islamic. Yet she presents herself as if she is an orthodox mainstream Muslimah, and this is very problematic. I don't want to pick on Linda Sarsour in particular, but she is seen as a role model, and this is problematic in my view. Family, let's talk about Linda Sarsour for a minute. Who in here takes Linda Sarsour as an Islamic authority? Just write yes or no in the chat, please. Even, let's because we gotta make it fair, because this is the Feachaz. The Feachaz is like the black grassroots. Ain't nobody in the black grassroots taking Linda Sarsour as an Islamic authority. But who in here knows somebody for a fact, like you absolutely know somebody that's taking Linda Sarsour as an Islamic authority? Put it in the chat, please. Just yes or no. The most you can say about her is that she's an activist who just happens to be Muslim, correct? But nobody in the dunya is quoting Linda Sarsour for the Islamic fatwa. So why all the hate? It's because she's liberal. It's because she's liberal. And let me introduce you to Jordan Peterson and Ayaan Hirsi. For those of you who've been watching in the beginning, you saw the clip of Jordan Peterson and Ayaan Hirsi, right? Let's go back. Let's go back to that video, y'all. Y'all think I'm capping you. You might think I'm tripping. Nobody taking Linda Sarsour for an Islamic authority. Like literally nobody. Nobody say, you know what? I need to learn about my Salaat. What does Linda Sarsour have to say? Look at here. Look at here. This is Daniel Haqiqatjou's words, right? He's complaining about Linda Sarsour, right? Look at here. Let me introduce you to Jordan Peterson and Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Ayaan Hirsi, notorious murtad, notorious, and is famous specifically because her murtadism, okay? And her anti-Islamic positioning. Y'all hearing me? Watch here. Look at here.
So you contrast an Islamic attitude towards women with a Western attitude towards women. So do we say that that's a contrast between the Islamic attitude towards women and the Judeo-Christian attitude towards women? Is it reasonable to make that a religious issue? Or what do you think about that? I mean, it is
a religious issue. It's a cultural issue. It's also an issue of not only generating and being the motto behind modernity and constantly modernizing, which is what Western societies are constantly doing. And then obviously the religious component for me, when I analyze the leadership of Islam, is the disappointment with modernity and the rejection of that. And again, that is why
what are they rejecting, do you think, that we've accepted? What are the differences that enables the emergence of the idea that women could be equal, or that they are equal, and that they should be, that equality should be fostered and treasured and developed? What's the difference?
Jordan Peterson here talking about what's the problem with Muslims making Muslim women equal, making women equal, and modernity and stuff, right? When did he say this? Look at the date, y'all. February 22nd, 2001. So as a self-respecting Muslim, with a self-respecting Muslim who believes in the Quran, believes in the Sunnah, believes in the Izzah of Islam, has some honor, has some pride. would a self-respecting Muslim say to himself, you know what? Let me introduce Jordan Peterson to the Muslim world. Somebody who is inviting openly hostile murtad to his podcast in February 22nd, 2021. Let me introduce the Muslims to this guy. Because we are here, we're talking about authentic Islam, right? Authentic Islam is under attack. Authentic Islam is facing extinction in the United States. So let me help authentic Islam survive in the United States by introducing the world to Jordan Peterson. Does a self-respecting Muslim do that? I want somebody in the chat, please. Does a self-respecting Muslim do that? Let me bring Jordan Peterson, who can't fathom why these Muslims don't want to make men and women equal, and they don't want to come into modernity and stuff. Let me get an expert, Jordan Peterson. I am Jordan Peterson. Let me bring Ian Hersey, the expert on this phenomenon, to my channel so we can talk about this. And then a Muslim will say, you know what? Let me just invite the Muslim world to listen to Jordan Peterson. Doesn't self-respect? Thank you. Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. You know, of course they're on payrolls. You kidding me? But let's listen to, because I don't want anybody thinking I'm capping. I don't want to think anybody I'm oppressing the brother. While you oppressing the brother.
Jordan Peterson released a video today titled Message to Muslims. I wanted to react to that video as a Muslim because it contains so much garbage. But before I do that, I wanted to apologize. I made a huge mistake because in the past, I said that Muslims can benefit from Peterson's critiques of feminism and transgender ideology. But I take it all back. Don't take anything from this guy. He's pure poison. Some of you might say, but Daniel, isn't that too harsh? No, it's not too harsh. You know why? Because look, as soon as Peterson finds out he has some Muslim following, what is the first thing he does? He puts out a message to Muslims that's pushing the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords are all about Zionist normalization and this idea that all religions are acceptable to God. All religions are the same. So he is promoting Zionism and perennialism to Muslims and dictating to us about our religion. And it's no wonder that he works for the Zionist Daily Wire and Zionist Ben Shapiro. Muslims, stay away.
You know, Daniel Haqiqatjou, he knew the entire time that Jordan Peterson works for Zionists the entire time. He's always worked for Zionists. Jordan Peterson. He knew that. Why is he surprised now? Why the surprise? It's because he's the one who introduced the world to Jordan Peterson. Okay? So many of your Muslim elite, your YouTubian da'i elite, followed his lead. And when Jordan Peterson went on your favorite Islamic influencer channels, so many more Muslims were introduced to Jordan Peterson. And when Jordan Peterson espoused what he already thought of Muslims to begin with, like I said, that interview was February 2021. When did he say that thing about message to Muslims, like 2 months ago? He didn't say anything different. Now we're surprised. But the question again, which self-respecting Muslim says, you know what, Muslims, listen to this guy? Who does that? But an alt-righter, somebody from the alt-right, yes, they will tell you to listen to Jordan Peterson. 100%. Y'all tripping. You people are tripping, man. Let me open up here, man. Let me open up. There's some of y'all. Look at here. This is the Black Grassroots here. Okay? We are the voice of Black Muslims in the Muslim community. We don't back down. We don't apologize. If you have a problem with what we are saying here, please let us know so we can see you. Please let us know. The days of bowing down and shucking and jiving and making concessions for the sake of brotherhood are finished. Done. Over. Y'all hearing me? We don't do that over here. Like it or like it, hate it or hate it. Daniel Haqiqatjou has always been like this. And anybody who's been listening to Daniel Haqiqatjou for any extended length of time, they always have the same rebuttals. The weakest rebuttals you'll ever come across in your entire life. Okay? When you show them this stuff, the first thing they want to say is, well, what about Omar Suleiman? What about Yaqeen Institute? Is we talking about Omar Suleiman right now? Is we talking about Yaqeen Institute right now? Ain't nobody talking about that. To be quite honest, most Black people don't give a damn about a Yaqeen Institute. Be truthful. I personally don't know any Black people, it's like, Yaqeen Institute and stuff. Yaqeen Institute, Mother Institute. To us, it looked like a kind of like uppity, back in Arab thing. We ain't really into it like that. Let's be real. But that's what they say. Why do they do that? Because they want to take the pressure off of Daniel. But why do you want to take the pressure off of Daniel? Why? You can listen to an entire Daniel Haqiqatjou lecture and not hear anything from the Quran or the Sunnah at all. But he will be coming out with all kinds of, things against feminism, against LGBTs and whatever. Abu Abdullah, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What you got for us, Sheikh?
Nothing. I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
Alhamdulillah. Everything's good.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, yeah. Everything's real good.
Alhamdulillah. So with Daniel Haqiqatjou and his like so obvious alt-right leanings, right? Why do you think with Daniel Haqiqatjou's obvious alt-right leanings?
I got two recordings playing this man, two voices. Hold on. Let me close.
Okay, yeah, turn off your YouTube. Turn off your YouTube.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready, Sheikh.
Yeah, I didn't have any comment. I was just listening, and then I saw the link for the show, but I don't know this Daniel. I've seen some of his stuff. You know, at one point you hear him criticizing Muslims who seem to be, putting out false information. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's straddling the fence. That's how I look at him. It's like he's trying to play both sides of the fence.
He's definitely not straddling the fence. Definitely not doing that. He's not neutral at all.
But how does it happen? Well, but here's my thing, man. How does somebody like that become a voice in our community?
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is my problem. We Muslims and our religion has been preserved through knowledge. And there's a prohibition of speaking without knowledge. How do all of these people who have no knowledge become our leaders and our speakers in this country for our community? This would have never happened. Somebody like him would have never been on a podium 20 years ago, bro. Seriously.
15 years ago, I would say. Even 15 years ago. Never ever. Muslims had way too much self-respect back then. You know what I mean? They wouldn't do it. As a matter of fact, 20 years ago, he wouldn't even think about speaking so boldly.
Exactly. That's my thing. Right. Even we Muslim, and I he's a Muslim, he's accepted, he's better than the Kafir, but he has to look at himself and stop putting himself out there on Front Street, as we say, because he's not qualified. It's prohibited, The Shaitan calls us to do that. Speaking without knowledge.
He's definitely not out there. He's definitely not going to do that. What social media has done is it's made an even playing field so that even the ignoramus will be seen better than the scholar. All right. As long as the ignoramus knows social media, they can come on and have massive platforms. You know what I mean? Salaat alaikum, brother Josh. What you got for us, bro?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Kayf halakum?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's every era has its iteration of fitna. I converted in the 2000s, and I saw a lot of fitna with like the Salafi cult and everything like that, the extremist Sufis and everything like that. And now, to me, Daniel is like the most obvious agent of discord that we can see. Like it's like you just said earlier ago, he doesn't have any, like, he probably used to on his earlier videos. He probably threw out a Quran verse here and there about some of the points he was making, but now, especially in all of his debates, he hasn't mentioned anything from Quran or Sunnah. In fact,
well, look at his debates, Josh. Does he debate anybody of repute? And when he debates an alt-righter, a blatant alt-righter, or a white supremacist, white nationalist, are those debates or are those?
They're not debates. They're cordial fireside chats.
The
one he had with Mark and Roosh, I think, the other Persian dude. They were cordial discussions. They weren't even really debates. They agreed on most of the points, and it was just kind of minor disagreements here and there. But he had this huge kind of debate, and it was probably his most obvious blunder with this Muslim woman a while ago. And she wasn't even feminist. She was just arguing that women had a right to education, which they do in Islam. But, Daniel was saying, they don't, because they should stay in the home, blah, blah, blah. And his opening statements had nothing from Quran at all. He gave some skewed stats, kind of skewed red pill stats that the more Rollo Tomasi side uses. And then he kind of went on the hypergamy argument. But, you bring this up to the people in his followers, the Dan bots, and they retort always with, "Oh, you stop simping," or you're just being a cuck, or you're a feminist, you're a liberal. They don't have any. It's like you said, they don't have any real arguments of substance. They just
they don't
spend them blindly. It's the most bizarre thing I've seen in a while. I've been Muslim.
For me, yeah, for me as well. I believe that as well. I've always said that in the Dawa sphere, the most dangerous person I've seen, right, is actually Daniel Haqiqatjou, right? The single most dangerous. Somebody without any Islamic training at all, who is obviously calling to the. It's not even like hidden. It's like he's clearly calling to people to the alt-right, and he's being pushed by Salafis.
Yeah,
somebody make it make sense. You know what I mean? Somebody make it. Go ahead.
Abu Abdullah said something a little while ago about him straddling the fence, and it's not that he straddles the fence; it's that he's purposely vague about a lot of his ideas. I mean, he'll outright say them, but he'll be vague about the sources to an extent.
Yes. Because his whole system is a funnel. He has his YouTube, right, which is like kind of like the bait, right? This is what he uses to get the people, right? So he's talking about feminism, atheism, LGBTs, the liberal agenda. This is what he uses YouTube for. Then he funnels it down to his Facebook and his blog, right? He gets more into the white supremacist ideology. Then if you get into his Telegram, that's what he really thinks.
Oh, yeah,
if you go into his Telegram, you're going to see what he really is. Right? Brother Abu Bara, go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to Josh and brother Abu Abdullah. They make two great points. Abu Abdullah said 20 years ago, this guy would never have a platform. And then Josh is talking about the particular rhetoric when he entered Islam in the early 2000s. All this is going to fall back to it resembles what? A cult. His fans are a cult, just like the Trumpsters. They are a cult. The Salafi pubs and what Josh talked about, that is a cult right now. It's a cult. All right. Put a little more emphasis on who's promoting Daniel Haqiqatjou. If you look at the people who's promoting him right now, from the Muslims who have Islamic knowledge, is Karim Abu Zayd and Saj Le Pen. These are the only two people. Now, his statement, Daniel Haqiqatjou, that is related to Saudi government being a prick.
Abu Bara, I want to make another point there because you made an excellent point, right? It's not just them. You have Sunnah Discourse channel, which has a bunch of novel brothers promoted them. You have what's your brother Ibn Hussein recently put him on his channel, right? The one who's talking about Shia and stuff, right? You know, all of these are Salafis, by the way. Okay, they're all Salafis, by the way. But so continue, Abu Bara.
So what I noticed when Daniel started getting popular is really through Karim Abu Zayd is the one who's promoting him. Like he's promoting him in this particular conference, AIM conference, which I believe he's doing to get money for a Dawah center in Texas. You talked about at the beginning of the video. You know, I have a little criticism with Karim Abu Zayd. Personally, I listened to some of his statements and who he studied with. One of his big sheikh himself is Sheikh Abu Ishaq Khawani, which is in the Salafi community. We understand he's a big takfiri. So that brings me some conclusions why he somewhat support Daniel Haqiqatjou, right? But I know that he's trying to clean up his work sometimes, his statements. His statement about George Floyd, he tried to clean that up in the video.
Yep.
All right.
Continue.
So next thing, Daniel is taking the same approaches as I talked to you before as Yasser Qadhi. Yasser Qadhi has a particular approach. Yasser Qadhi first was with the Salafis, with Maghrib Institutes. Once he got that crowd from the Salafis, which you're going to get the Salafi youth from this crowd, he went and did made a bayan with the Sufis. And then he got the Sufi youths, right? With Maghrib Institute, he brought in the Salafi youths and the Sufi youths. Then with that, he got his degree from one of these college universities, Yasser Qadhi. Once he got that degree, he turned around because he wanted a bigger crowd from his own people who got money. He said he's no longer Salafi. All right? He got those peoples in his community who are doctors, lawyers who got money. Then what Yasser Qadhi do? Then Yasser Qadhi went to the next extreme to get more followers from his country who are Akhul Qubur, grave worshippers and stuff. He says what? asking help from the grave, this is what permissible, right? Yasser Qadhi took these approaches to get more followers, which he actually got. Daniel is doing the same thing. He's just in the beginning levels of it now. That's why he's mixing with the Salafis to get the Salafi youths. Next thing that I noticed is very big, no one's really talking about, is that Daniel Haqiqatjou and Yaqeen Institute, both of their platforms, because Daniel was with Yaqeen Institute, these platforms, Daniel pushing the right and the Yaqeen pushing the left agenda, all these things are for the immigrant Muslims who migrated to US to pick. They have to pick a side political. Who's gonna help them stay in America? Are the Democrats gonna help preserve my money, my job, my house, or the Republicans are going to preserve this? So that two fight right there, it has nothing to do with us black brothers, Latino brothers. It has nothing to do with us. That's why you don't see Yaqeen Institute in the black communities, in the black masajids. You don't see them. You don't see them.
There's no money in it.
Right?
So
they just
it's not just Yaqeen Institute, mind you. Like we said it before, that the vast majority of your Islamic institutions start off as liberal, because it was the liberal governments that let your immigrant Muslims into the countries to begin with. So that's why your parents were always telling you vote liberal, vote liberal, vote liberal. But now it backfired. You get me? Black people historically have never really had this issue for about 30, 40 years now, right? Because we see the game, right? We've been here, we've been there, done that, right? We had Malcolm X, for example, laying out clearly, very clearly, right? It's a situation between the fox and the wolf, and both of them are trying to eat you, the sheep. And the difference between the wolf and the fox is the fox will smile in your face, right? They will smile in your face until they get to eat you, right? This is the liberal, but they both trying to eat you. You get me? Especially with black Muslims, we don't really have that. That type of understanding. We understand what the game is. Y'all came here with liberal governments and you just gave your votes away for free, sent your children to your schools, and when it backfires on you, now you're trying to lean right. Y'all hearing me?
AIM conference, you just think about it. I never seen Daniel in any Salafi conference before. So this is their first way to try to introduce them to the Salafi community.
Yeah.
And
of course they do it on the backs of black scholars, as usual. As usual. Brother Miraz, what you got for us, bro?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan for this show as usual. I just want to pop in real quick and say that the brother who just mentioned that's the reason why the Yaqeen Institute isn't in the black communities. He just blew my mind, bro. I just got mind blown because it's true. It's true. It's like they're just there for the cash. It's a cash cow, right? The money's not there. They're not there. So it's not about spreading the haqq. It's just about building their own community. That's scary, man. That's diabolical, bro.
Yeah,
it's diabolical.
If you look at historically, Islam, when it spread throughout the world, right? Who were historically the first people to accept Islam? Was it the rich or was it the poor?
The poor.
The poor. And because they accepted Islam and they followed Islam, did they stay poor or did they become rich?
They became rich.
They became rich. And it's so much so that it was seen that Islam in all these countries was seen as an elite religion. You get it? But these guys, they have it all backwards, right? They all have it all backwards. The people who need Islam the most, they abandon them. And when you find these young black communities of Muslims, you use them for whatever resources, human resources, financial resources, capital resources you can get, so you can take it back to your own community. And when your children try to be just like the very black people that you hate, you come back to us, bring our scholars to your conference talking about, AIM and stuff. Go ahead, brother Miraz. Continue.
Dude, I really got nothing more to say than, just thank you so much for like all the brothers here. Like, may Allah bless all of you and continue to bless you, and may He, rise you in the ranks, because it's refreshing to hear it, man. I mean, it's hard. You can't find the opportunity to talk about this. Like I've mentioned before in previous shows you've made, like it's really hard to have this conversation without being shut down by the community, So again, you guys are blessings.
Would try to shut us down.
And also, AIM is charging $30 a head, so they out for the money. It's $30 to go to the conference.
Brother, this conference, you said it was organized by Kareem Abu Zayd?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's his background?
I believe I think Abu Baram knows more about that. Go ahead, bro.
He's Egyptian. He's Egyptian.
I know that, but see, this is why I asked you. I met that brother in 2001 in Baltimore, Maryland, and he was, I think, a cab driver. And about a year after I was there, he started getting involved in the masjid up in College Park, helping with the kids, coaching soccer. And then after a while, he just became like you see him in the masjid regularly. Then he started leading the Salaat. And then he actually had a really beautiful recitation.
MashaAllah.
But then after some years, I left Maryland. I lost touch. And then all of a sudden, I see he's like this big imam. And he's even like, there was a scandal behind him leaving Prince George County Masjid and moving to Denver. But my thing is like his credentials. See, my issue now with our community is a lot of the leadership, they have no credentials.
Well, he's studying an online university.
Yeah, dawah is necessary, but like these brothers in positions in these masajid, it's a problem when they don't have credentials. And then, like you said, money. It's money thing. Brother, every masjid I know, now masajid are raking in major amounts of money, and every masjid is raising all these large sums of money and building these bigger and bigger masjids, right? And it's like
nobody going to them. No one going to them.
Exactly. Where's the dawah? You see what I'm saying? Like, if you go back to the basics, man, the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh to Yemen, and he said, "You are coming upon the people of the book, Ahlul Kitab. Let the first act be to call them to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah," right? And he said, if they obey you in this, then you teach them the salah. Okay? If they obey you in the salah, then you enjoin them zakat, but don't take the rest of their wealth. Otherwise, there's no screen between Allah and those who are oppressed. So you look at our existence here. In the 90s, it was very clear. Ulama was like, du'at, not just ulama, du'at. We was getting a lot of our information through the du'at. And it was like, okay, the Muslims, if we are not here for establishing the religion, our state is cursed. We live in a perpetual state of sin. So with all of this, I mean, I appreciate all the discussions and the Muslims trying to get together and resolve some of this conflict. But when we going to get back to the dawah? Because these people going to hell, man. These people we living amongst going to hell, and we sitting on the ship right with them.
Now, I want to break some stuff down to you, inshallah, because you brought up some important things, right? And I want everybody to understand, inshallah, that the relationship between the imams and the Islamic centers and your masajid and all this kind of stuff, the relationship between them and these centers is the relationship as an employee to an employer. Don't get it mixed up. The imams of these masajid are employed by the masajid, right, to carry out their imam duties. But their imam duties are not typical traditional imam duties like you have in, Muslim countries, for example. In the Muslim countries, what does the imam do? The imam goes, he leads the Salaat, right? And he'll teach Quran classes, maybe have some fiqh classes, right? Hadith classes, these type of things. And it's the imam's masjid. Everybody understands that in a Muslim country, it's the imam's masjid. That's imam so-and-so's masjid. That imam so-and-so's masjid. In the West, it's completely different. It's like total opposite. What it is that the masjid hires the imam, and like the traditional imams in Eastern countries, they do those things, but they want them to be the counselor. They want them to be the khatib. They want them to be handling fundraising. They want them to do the dawah program. They want them to do so many things. But most of all, what they don't want them to do is rock the boat with the government. And the second you start speaking about issues that are pertinent to the Muslim community, within that community, the imam gets fired. You get it?
Yeah.
Right? That's how it works in the West. You understand? So now, because you have this type of conundrum, so to speak, with imams and the Islamic institutions. Imams now, they got to think about their families. They got to think about stability. And these masajid are looking for yes men. They're looking for yes men. They're looking for political alliances with parties, and they're looking for donations. Because if you just think about the masajid in your local community, right? Or particularly the ethnic East community, like your Pakistani masajid, your Arab masajid. Who's running the masjid? It's a lawyer. It's a doctor. It's an engineer. You get it? But it's never the imam.
And they're nameless people, bro. They're people that are in the community, but you don't really know them. You see what I'm saying?
Like, you don't know them. Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of like, it's like, bro, it's like, I don't know, like if you guys have had the opportunity to work at like a small company, a medium-sized company, and a big company, but it almost feels like working at like a big company. Like, you don't really know the CEO. Like, you've seen him. You've seen him around the office, man. You know, he's said a speech or two. Maybe he's had a little thing where he's bought everybody burgers or whatever, right? But you don't know him.
You don't know him, yeah.
And then one day he just fires off an entire department, and you're just like, what? That's the kind of vibe that you get with all the masjids here. You know, it's freaking sad, man.
Yeah. So, anyways. Right, these people and many of them are not even religious, but why do they have these positions in the West? Why is this a thing in the West? It's because these people understand how to run a nonprofit organization and a charity. You understand? And they may have very strong liberal leanings, which is why at your very big Eid Salats, what happens at every Eid Salat? Every Eid Salat, what happens? Who speaks before the imam all the time at every Eid Salat? Who does it?
Yeah, some politician.
Thank you. That's why that happens. You get it?
Yeah, they always bring some politician.
They always bring some politician. That's why that happens. You understand? So once you understand this concept, right, and you have this knowledge, you can now operate in a way that is productive for your community, because what that tells you is that if you want to run a masjid, you know, for the community, you have to learn these skills. You have to learn how to run a nonprofit. You have to learn how to run a charity. You get it? You have to learn how to run, how to handle money, this type of things, like the accounting or whatever, the paying the bills.
Okay, let me ask you this. You have to run these masajid as nonprofit.
Yeah.
They have to be a non, because then doesn't that, like, one thing you see masjids doing now is they getting these grants from the government, and then you go on the masjid and they got all these pamphlets, government pamphlets about all these different subjects. Okay. Do I have to, if I'm running a nonprofit, do I have to engage in that kind of activity?
Well, why are they doing that? There's always a reason why they do that.
I assume for the money, the grant money.
Of course.
That's something different. But brother, that's something different than grant money. You can have a 501c without having any government grants. The government grants may help pay for a bill. You have a building trying to build, like this masjid. I don't have a masjid by my house, They own the school. They almost finished building the second part of the school. They write a grant. It's a grant from the government to pay for that. You got me?
Okay, but what about grants where the feds come in and do classes and they pass out pamphlets and all that kind of stuff?
Nah, I hear you. That's why some people don't want those grants. That's why some Islamic organizations that have 501c3, they don't go ask for grants because they don't want the government doing that stuff. So you can have a 501c, the nonprofit status, without the grants.
Well, looky here,
okay,
right? At the end of the day, I don't want to stray too far off from this, right? But what you got to understand is that all these masajid, all these Islamic community centers, whatever, right? The people who are running these centers, right? They're not doing it for free, okay? So they are incentivized to work with political parties, right? In order to keep these masajid running. You understand? Because they're not doing it for free. You get it?
Right. Yeah.
Right? So now,
I brought you. Yeah.
So now for Black people specifically, right?
Yeah.
We here, right? We is, right? But we ain't, okay? What Black people do is because they don't, Black people generally, you know, all of us are Black here, I think, right? We do not learn how things work before we get involved in the things, right? So now we see other people, right, doing the things that they do, right? And we're here wondering why. If you took the time to learn how the system works, then you would get your own. When you start thinking independently, like an independent community or whatnot, you're not going to be making those same mistakes. But in the Black community, what do? We're not trying to own a masjid. We're trying to pay rent to our Italian or Jewish landlords for the masjid. You get me?
Yeah.
What kind of sense does that make? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on top of that, anybody can go into the Black community, set up business, set up shop. It doesn't make a difference, right?
Right.
Right? Here comes Abu Khadija SP. Bro, don't make me laugh already. First thing, this brother, man. First thing, this brother, right? Anybody can come into our masajid and just set up shop. In our community and set up shop, including the Muslims, right? And we're happy giving our money because we're thinking these people don't have any, you know, they're like our brothers. You get it? But they're looking out for themselves. You know, what makes sense for Black people, you know, is to practice, of course, group economics, right? Get our own land, you know, practice capitalism, you know, give our brightest minds grants so they can finish university, college, whatever they need to do, so they can have the skills to run these centers, build up our own politicians within our communities, right, from the ground up, and everybody has to come behind them and say, this brother right here, he's going to be the mayor of this city or whatever. He's going to be a counselor, and all the Muslims are going to come behind them, right? We don't do that. What we do is we say like this. We sit here. You know, brother, voting's haram. You know, brother, democracy's haram. You know, brother, this haram, that haram. And we just call out all the things that are haram without any solutions whatsoever. So we don't learn how the system works and we don't provide solutions. But we know everything's haram. All right? That's what Black people do. So these people, they learn how the system works and they operate within that system. You get it?
Yep.
I got a question for you, brother.
Go ahead.
So, do you think people just need to go back, like guys that are like us, that think like us, that have this this type of thought process? Do you think that we need to start just hosting like our local talib al-ilm at home, and just every Friday night or something, we invite this guy to our house and we get a bunch of brothers and we learn ilm from him, and we just kind of have like a small, not a masjid at the house, but you know what I'm saying? Like you make it that a thing instead of going to these very played out, same style, like basically everything we just talked about. Is that the strategy? Like, because what is the strategy, man?
Well, for me, I'm a big fan of private ownership. You understand? But again, that requires the community to come together. You get it? There's enough money in the Black community to own things privately. I don't care how poor your neighborhood is, right? You can actually do it. You know, and again, at the expense of trying to sounding cliche, Islam is actually the solution. Right? The problem is figuring out Islam so we can make it the solution. Just believe me when I tell you Islam is the solution. Okay? If you look at zakat, for example, zakat, what is zakat? Right? It's translated as charity. Right? But it's not charity. Zakat really is not charity. Zakat is a religious pillar that necessitates group economics. Do you understand? For example, if you look at the interest-based banking system here in the West, okay, it incentivizes individualism. It incentivizes people to take out loans, you understand, and use the banking system to print more money to increase the wealth of individuals. You understand? So now, for example, if you have $1 million in the bank and you're getting charged whatever 3% interest or whatever, you know what I mean? You're basically getting a salary every month, right? So you're not incentivized to remove that money from the bank. You get it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That money is for you. You're just going to keep it in the bank so you can keep getting that interest money every month so you have money to spend. You get it? Right. In Islam, we don't have that. What we have is zakat. So now the same person has $1 million in the bank, right? And he has to pay 2.5% of that $1 million, right, to the poor. Well, he has that $1 million. He doesn't want to lose his money, right? So what is he going to do? What is he going to do?
He's going to spend it.
But how is he going to spend it?
The way that he wants to.
He just doesn't want to buy a Bugatti or something like that. How is he going to spend it?
A Muslim?
Yes, if you have $1 million in the bank and you have to pay 2.5 interest, you're not just going to spend $1 million for the sake of spending it so you don't have to pay 2.5 interest. How are you going to spend that money?
Well, you're going to spend it to further your own so-called humanitarian efforts, right? You're going to spend that 2.5% in your own community to further your own agenda.
And how are you going to do that in your own community? You're going to do what?
I mean...
One word.
I mean,
it's close to spend. Huh?
I'm not understanding the question. Because I'm thinking if I got the money, I'm going to pay the zakat. If I got to pay it, I got to pay it.
But you have $1 million every year, you're just going to pay 2.5. You know, the rational mind doesn't think like that. They're not trying to lose their money like that. So now you're incentivized to do what in the community?
Oh, no.
Huh? What is it? Somebody said, I think. Invest. A smart person will invest that money. You get it?
Yeah, because if they invest, it's going to compound.
Exactly. And then you start making more. And who benefits from the investing of that money in the community?
Everybody.
Thank you. That's why the Islamic system is superior to all other systems. But y'all don't see it like that. You think the Islamic system is inferior, and it's not. It's far superior. That's why so many people, when they became Muslim, it brought them out of poverty. You get it?
No.
You know. So, but again, going back to the brother Miraz, when he was talking about doing, things in a house or whatnot, or privately, or things of that nature. Power, it comes from the ground up, right? It never comes from the top down. There has to be a grassroots effort, right, within the community, right? And of course, at the base of that is Islamic knowledge. But how do you use that Islamic knowledge? Too long have we been, theorizing, particularly in the Black community, all this theory. There needs to be practice of it. Like I just mentioned about the zakat. You get it? There needs to be practice of it. The participation of this particular system just builds the system. So anybody who has right-leaning or left-leaning politics, they are essentially fighting white people's war in the name of Islam. And that is a major problem. But when you start seeing Islam as superior, right, and you can prove it with the Quran and the Sunnah, and you implement it, and when you start implementing it, really will be superior. Like legit, it really will be superior. When you start seeing it like that, then it will be superior. But until we reach that point and stop making capitulations and concessions to people who are nefarious in our community, particularly Black folk, then it's never going to happen.
No.
All right, bros. I'm gonna give you guys the last words. We'll start with Brother Abu Abdullah.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I turned my camera off. I'm actually trying to shut it down for work, but it was I appreciate everybody. Inshallah, Allah help us to do what we're supposed to do. Inshallah, to give us a success in this life and the next. Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks, Brother Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the turn from the topic changed pretty drastically, though it is linked altogether. But I appreciate the dialogue, and the forum is very much needed, especially in these confusing times. And I ask Allah that He keep those with sincerity away from the disingenuous nature of those who call to other than His book and Sunnah, and that we remain and strive for the truth. I mean, but Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Excellent. Brother Miraz, go ahead, bro.
Dude, this is basically everything what Josh said, and again, thank you so much to all the brothers here, especially you. May Allah bless all of you. May Allah keep you all on the straight path and continue to protect you guys during this difficult time.
I mean, Jazakallah khair for everybody who participated tonight. Jazakallah khair for everybody who joined me. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Please support the channel on Patreon. Support the channel on whatchamacallit. We have the PayPal. We have all kinds of different sharing apps available. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa hamdik wa shara la ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu